Update. My 23 female friend, 22 female, just asked me to play the violin in her wedding. I do not and have never played the violin. Also, I think she might literally be going insane. Like, really. Original story. So, my friend from school asked me to be in her wedding over lunch today. I've known this girl about 2 years, and because we have the same major, we are school friends. We partner up in classes, do projects together, etc., but I don't really know or hang out with her outside this setting. Anyways, she asked me to be in her wedding, and I assumed as a bridesmaid. But I was wrong. She said she had had a dream of her perfect wedding, and it was so beautiful she woke up crying. Wrote it all down and cried for hours because it was just so beautiful and perfect. She even made some sketches and said this was a vision from God for a wedding, and she couldn't even explain the warmth and ecstatic love to me because she didn't have the words, but that she would do anything to capture it perfectly. She then likened herself to an artist with divine inspiration and went on for about 20 minutes about the details of her inspiration and how beautiful and uniting this wedding would be. That it would change lives and be so much more than a ceremony, and that the execution was so perfect it would be more of a visual statement, an artistic dedication to love that everyone would be a living part of. In this beautiful perfect wedding, I am to the front left on the aisle, playing violin as her guests arrive, in a long white gown, feathered and beaded and soft, very romantic. I'll know it when I see it. I laughed and told her I've never played the violin before, and as such may have a hard time performing for her guests. She told me that I had a year to learn, and that this was extremely important to her. I looked at what I could of her beautiful wedding notes. They seem really insane. Lots of stuff feverishly circled or written over and over like, "Inspect what you expect," over and over, and all in white, literally scribbled over other words, all in the margins, copied into big paragraphs. The part she showed me of my role just said my name. Violin, soft and complex, beautiful and intricate, a concerto, lots of detail. Wow, the guests. I don't know how to play violin at all. I've literally never touched one. She sounded like she was on something talking about it. She was feverish and flitting from topic to topic, and talking about how maybe I could compose something. But she wanted it to sound so intricate that no one would believe it was just one person playing it. It seems beyond normal bride stuff, and when I told her even if I did have a year to learn to play, it would be basic at best, she slammed her hand on the table and said, "Stop." Then went right back to her cheery, excited talk about her divine wedding. I very gently tried to refuse, and told her that this wedding sounded really important, and that I would be happy to try to find a professional to play for her, and she just said, no, it has to be you. I'm sure of it. And went right back to talking, as if I had suggested I wearing a hat to the beach. Just really casually dismissed. Then she dropped a bomb. Besides, I already bought your violin, and it was almost $2,000. What? I don't know how to play. I told her she was being insane. But she just kept making no noises, or putting up her hands or saying enough. Eventually, she just said the violin would be here in a few weeks, and that I needed to find someone that gives lessons and learn, and that she believed in me. She told me that worst case scenario, I get to learn a skill most people would love to learn, and that if I do well, I can have the violin as payment. But I don't want a violin. I don't play. Then she left, and here I am, dumbfounded. I can't exactly cut ties and run. It is summer now, but we have a class together currently, and 3 classes together in the fall. I can only see her getting crazier about this. She's scaring me, and while she's always had a flair for the dramatics, she's never been this crazy before. I'm not really sure if this is just mega bridezilla and she will get over it, or if I should just pretend I don't know her, or if I should call a Lunabin to come pick her up. Or just take up the violin and hope whatever god of weddings visited her grants me magical powers. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Hey, this sounds a lot like a manic episode. A classic symptom is to take an interest like that to an extreme, and coupled with the euphoria, fast talking, magical thinking, and compulsive nature of her speech, it really reminds me of the mania I've encountered in my life. I'll say it's impossible to diagnose this stuff over the internet, but read up on the symptoms and see what you think. The tough part is that, if it's true, it's hard to do anything about until it's extreme enough to warrant commitment. possible harm to self or others, though it depends on where you live. Whatever you do, try not to tell her she's crazy or needs medication, as this will alienate her whether it's true or not. Anyway, I don't want to go too far down this road if I'm wrong, but feel free to ask more questions if not. Good luck. Came here to say this, but you worded it perfectly. Sounds like a manic episode. Opie, get in touch with her fiancé and tell him about this. Ask him if she's okay or if he's noticed anything strange. I think you should mention something to her fiancé and her family. This sounds like it is potentially very serious, not a temper tantrum or demands. Something is very wrong. I'm Facebook friends with her fiancé. What do I even say? I'm sure she's told him about this dream of hers. Yeah, but does he know that she spent $2,000 on a violin to give to a friend who has never played a violin and has no desire to learn? At the very least, you could contact her fiancé and ask for help in refusing. Say that you have tried to refuse this request, but she's really steamrolling you. Tell him that you are not going to be playing the violin at the ceremony, and you need his help getting that information through to the bride. I mean, that way you're getting the fiancé involved with a crazy that's affecting you. From there, hopefully you can notice the more crazy things that are happening, or rein this girl in a bit. What? Have been playing the violin for 15 years and would still be nervous to perform a solo in front of a wedding. And it wouldn't sound as good as this lady's describing. It takes a lot of work to even sound good on a violin. Have you heard grade schoolers play? I would have to start practicing a solo now, and I know how to play. And now for the update. So, I sent a modified original post to her fiancé, and added after, I'm really worried because this seems pretty mentally unstable, way beyond normal bride stuff. Then I got his reply on Facebook from her, not her fiancé, at about 2 p.m. today. I didn't see it because she deleted me from her friends, and it went to a different mailbox. Thanks so much for trying to tell my husband I'm crazy. Thank God he understands what it is like to love someone, and what planning a wedding is all about. Excuse me that I have a dream I'm passionate about. Trust me, if you ever get a ring with that attitude, you will understand too, but I doubt it. Nice trying to get between us, but guess what, sweetie? Nothing could tear us apart. Least of all, you. Ha 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 ha. You're clearly jealous, and that makes me feel really bad for you. Then about an hour ago, I got a message from her fiancé. A long message. The too long didn't read is that she went freaking nuts on a florist because he couldn't do her entire wedding in Wisteria. The horror. Almost got arrested for making a scene in a store. Then he found out she has spent her financial aid / student loan money for the second half of summer and the fall in random wedding stuff like my violin, and has been booking venue tours and tastings with ridiculous expensive prices. If anyone's familiar with Texas, she's looking at doing her wedding in a giant castle in that ritzy Lake Travis part of Austin. You know, by the huge multi-million-dollar mansions. So I told her about the need for a budget and being realistic, and she threw an epic freaking fit. At this point, she left and went to her sister's house. I messaged him back saying that she may be bipolar and in a manic state, and to ask her sister to maybe get her to a doctor. But he was more upset and focused on being hurt at what she had said to him about the wedding than her. She threw a right little tantrum and accused us of sleeping together. I told him that needless to say, I would not be playing violin in their wedding, and that I was sorry for any trouble. But I really did think it was best he seek some mental health help for her. He said, "You made your point. You don't need to rub it in. I can take care of my family." I told him I understood and wished them the best. And I guess that is that. I didn't see her in class today though, and it looks like she won't be coming back for the fall unless she has a plan to get more money. Thank you for the help, everyone. I really did appreciate having a few hundred friends in this. The husband-to-be is still absorbing new information that he is reluctant to absorb. His best case scenario is that she is reckless bridezilla. He may want to be in denial with that for a while. I wouldn't be surprised if the OP gets messaged later confirming the bipolar diagnosis. I would be totally surprised if OP gets messaged later, but I would not be surprised with a bipolar diagnosis. You made your point. You don't need to rub it in. I can take care of my family. It sounds like he's still taking what OP said personally. Almost like he thinks she's being sarcastic instead of genuine when she says she needs medical help. Wow. Well, good on you for trying to reach out to the fiancé. Now that he is informed, how they deal with it is up to them. I think you can walk away with a completely clear conscience. And don't take her jab personally. You know she's not all there right now. You did great. OP, thanks for the update. Hey, I'm redoing my garden, and would like a full-size replica of the Taj Mahal as a centerpiece. I can get some stones if you can Google architecture. I'd like you to build it for me. If it's not too much, of course. By next Wednesday. Next story. My 35 male family won't come to my wedding because I haven't forgiven my relative, 36 male, for violating my ex. Looking for how I should handle this situation. Short story background info is a decade ago. I was engaged and my relative got drunk with my then fiancé after meeting for the first time and violated her. We ended up splitting a year after because she didn't feel comfortable around my family anymore, constantly being reminded of the night of the accident. I haven't spoken to that relative since, completely dropped him from my life, which has caused a tear in the family. I'm now happily engaged to a woman I love and have sent invitations, but none of the extended family has accepted because they're mad that I haven't forgiven my relative. They say, well, if you didn't do that, then you never would have met your current fiancé. And blood is thicker than water. To me, the ends don't justify the means, and family shouldn't get an automatic pass when it comes to stuff like this. They also say I should believe him and that it was consensual, instead of my crazy ex. But even if that were the case, it takes two people, and I've lost all respect for him and don't need that in my life. I'd love for them to be at the wedding, but if I have to make amends with this relative, then I'm okay with them not coming. As much as I didn't want there to be sides, it seems like they've chosen them already. I'd like to reach out to them to plead my case, but I'm not sure if that's the right play. Thanks in advance for any advice. Now for the advice. Anyone who faults you for insisting that your wedding be an offender-free zone is telling on themselves. No kidding. They're freaking disgusting. Personally, I just let them make their decision and leave it. Less plates to pay for at the wedding. It's great you moved on, and if there are things to hash out, I'd leave it to do after the wedding. You have enough stress going on. What do you think it would look like to plead your case to your family? What is the best case scenario? What is the worst case scenario? Best case scenario is that my family comes to the wedding and not let my relationship with that one family member affect their relationship with me. Worst case is that they choose to side with him and drop me from their lives. If they're calling your ex crazy because she was upset about being violated, are these people, family or not, whose feelings you should cuddle? Edit. This got bigger than I expected. I appreciate everyone taking the time to comment. I'll let them come to me. I said I like them there, but if they want to take sides, I'm okay dropping them too. It's in their court, and I'm not going to spend my energy justifying my feelings to them. Just wanted to say thanks again to the kind advice and for reinforcing my thoughts on the situation. The wedding is in a few months, and I'm going to enjoy the hell out of the day no matter what. Last story is titled, My 30 female close friend 37 female is relying on my husband 35 male for emotional support, and it's making me uncomfortable. The other day, my husband and I met our mutual friend at the pool with our daughters. We have known this friend and her husband for the better part of a decade and have all become quite close. About a year ago, she moved out of her home she shared with her husband to escape the marriage, which had turned abusive. I offered a lot of support to her in this time, offering our home to her and her children and helping to put her in touch with many different resources. I also offered my shoulder at any time she needed it and have encouraged her every step of the way. My husband and I have spent a lot of sleepless nights trying to ensure the health and well-being of everyone involved. It is a relief that she has initiated the divorce process and can begin to move on with the life she deserves, and we continue to support her. Recently, she offered to help us with a small errand while we were out of town. My husband met with her to exchange info prior to us leaving town, and it took him about an hour longer than he had planned. He called on his way home to let me know that he was running late as upon his arrival. She began to talk with him about her struggles with the divorce and was sobbing. I didn't think of it at the time, other than to feel badly for her and to make sure I checked in with her. When she arrived at the pool with her girls, we were applying sunscreen to all the kids. I asked if she wanted help applying hers as she's quite fair-skinned and did not have anyone to assist her. She said she did not need help. We all kind of stood awkwardly for a minute, and then I took all the kids with me across the park and into the pool. I noticed after a short time that my husband and friend had not come along. When I looked back to the area they had last been, my husband was applying sunscreen to her. She showed him something on her phone, and they stood and talked for about 5 minutes before joining me. Something about it made me feel extremely uncomfortable, and I kept it to myself for the majority of the day and played with the kids. But they both could tell I wasn't up for chat. Today, she messaged me and asked if I'm okay as I didn't seem like myself. I trust my husband and I also trust my friend. She has never in our friendship done anything to make me feel she isn't trustworthy. She struggles with a significant amount of anxiety and is obviously going through a difficult time, and I have always tried to support her. Likewise, my husband has never done anything to earn this trust. I recognize that my feelings are largely due to some internalized something. But at the end of the day, I was uncomfortable. I know leaning on someone for emotional support can change the dynamics of a relationship. How can I be honest with my friend about my discomfort while not adding to her distress or making her feel as though I do not trust her? Talk to your husband, share your feelings, and set some boundaries. If the situation doesn't stop, friend talks about her struggle, the anxiety, suggest therapy. Husband definitely needs to be clued in to the fact that friend might be projecting onto him and setting herself up to have a transference experience. aka a bad time for y'all if y'all don't nip it now. Husband needs to have big fat boundaries in place, and he needs to be exercising them at all times. Talk to him. Remind him that she's emotionally compromised, and he needs to be responsible for the amount of attachment he allows her to form with him right now while she's vulnerable. Make it about them, not about you, because your reaction to their respective impropriety is correct and appropriate. Yeah, I would never ask a friend's partner to rub sunscreen on me. If you're catching a vibe, it's for a reason. Although your husband should have directed her back to you for help with sunscreen application, I can see how he may have gotten caught off guard with her request. What makes these kinds of situations annoying is that people will downplay the inappropriateness and act like it's no big deal because it's just sunscreen, or I was just in a bad headspace and he happened to be there to help me. But in my opinion, this is how the inappropriate friendships start, with the little stuff. I've seen friends make really poor judgment calls when they are going through divorces or other difficult life events. She should probably be talking to a therapist if she isn't already. If you aren't comfortable calling her out on the sunscreen and emotional support thing, then come up with a plan with your husband on how to handle her in the future. He needs to set some boundaries with her. Personally, I don't think you should ignore your gut feeling here. I had a close friend like this who I helped after her marriage ended, etc. I was rewarded by her and my husband, now ex, having an affair. I'd mention it to both of them how you felt, but be wary.
Am I the a-hole for divorcing my husband and leave him with a kid after finding out I'm not biologically the mom? I can't believe my life has come to this. All I ever do is go out of my way to help others, but on the few occasions I need help, nobody ever comes through for me. I, 36 female, have been with my husband, 35 male, for a total of almost 10 years, married for 7. We had what I thought was my child by surrogate over 2 years ago, because after 4 years of trying to conceive with no success despite medical interventions, it turns out I'm unable to carry a child to term. I'd always wanted to be a mom. Devastated is an understatement regarding how I felt when I found out I have a medical condition that would make it nearly impossible to carry a baby to term. It was even more upsetting when I had to get a major surgery to remove uterine growths with the hope to increase fertility, and complications during surgery warranted a partial hysterectomy involving removal of my uterus only. I still had my ovaries, so I started looking into cost of a surrogate. It is really expensive. My close friend since college, who'd already had 2 kids of her own, offered to serve as the surrogate for us to cut down on costs. After 2 disappointing IVF sessions that did not result in pregnancy, she became pregnant on the 3rd try and carried a boy to term for us. I was so happy and busy after the birth, between being a mom and returning to work after a 4-week parental leave, so I didn't notice any warning signs. I should have noticed the red flags and warning signs early on, but I did not because I was so exhausted from working so much at my stressful job and 2 part-time jobs to cover most of the bills, and anticipated medical and legal costs associated with his friend becoming our surrogate. I was the primary breadwinner. My friend and my husband started talking more, and I would sometimes come home from my weekend job to find her already hanging out at our house when my husband was there. I chalked it up as innocuous. And it's good for her to know my husband better, since she was in the process of hopefully carrying our child for us. I was grateful to have someone helping us have a child. I also thought it weird that our son has brown eyes when both of us have blue. Then I found out that while this isn't common, it's possible sometimes due to many genes controlling eye color. Recently, it all came to a head when I took our son to a doctor's appointment and they did metabolic panel and blood tests, which showed that he had a blood type that is not biologically possible to have with me as his mother. He's B positive, I'm A positive, husband is O positive. Immediately, I started worrying it was the fertility clinic's fault and that they messed up and implanted a wrong embryo. I started lining up lawyer consultations to possibly sue the clinic and looked into having a DNA parentage test done. The test results showed that I am not the mother, but my husband still is the father. I was heartbroken and angrier than ever. Talked to lawyers about medical malpractice at the fertility clinic we'd used. Then my husband confessed that he'd slept with my friend, our surrogate, on a few different occasions during our struggle to have her get pregnant with our embryos. This means what I thought was our son conceived by IVF and carried with a surrogate isn't my son at all, and was in fact conceived the old-fashioned way, which I can't ever do. Livid and absolutely broken at the same time doesn't even begin to describe how I feel. I have been breaking down into crying spells over and over again about this. He claims he didn't ever think pregnancy could result because he pulled out, and he had always assumed that he was the reason for our earlier struggles to conceive, both before my hysterectomy and during IVF insemination process with his friend. I felt an immediate triple betrayal. From what was supposed to be my husband, my friend, and now knowing my child isn't even really mine. I had such white-hot rage and delirium, I immediately left home and stayed at a hotel for almost a week, before asking my parents to let me stay at home for a while. I admit I left our son with him. I am now filing divorce because he cheated and betrayed me in the worst possible way. I have also cut off my friendship with my friend, the surrogate, and feel afraid to trust anyone else now. I have seen a divorce lawyer to see about giving up my legal rights to this kid, so I don't have to face such betrayal or owe child support. My husband and friend/surrogate admit they were wrong and keep apologizing, but also called me immature and heartless to just give up on my son like that. My parents also say I can't just give up on a kid that I went through so many legal and medical hoops to have. When I told them I refused to stay in a cheater marriage and I'd rather adopt someday with a better, more trustworthy partner, they also told me I was wrong, and that maintaining my parental rights isn't much different than if I adopted outright. They said it isn't blood that makes a family. They're all about me divorcing my cheater husband, but keep telling me I'm making a mistake giving up my parental rights. Some of my other friends agree with what I'm doing. If you admitted they weren't big enough to swallow pride and care for an affair baby, or to see daily reminders of my friend/surrogate's betrayal every time I look at her son. I just want a clean break and a fresh start. I'm also looking at relocating several states away. Am I the a-hole to give up my parental rights in a divorce because a kid I paid a lot of money to have born by surrogacy isn't biologically mine at all but the surrogates? Now for the top comments. No, you're not the a-hole. You've suffered a terrible betrayal. Only you can say what's best for you. Personally, I wouldn't be able to look at the child without being hit with the betrayal again and again. Your parents and friends don't have to actually deal with the situation. They don't get a vote. Your soon-to-be ex is a real piece of work. You're immature? I would want to throw up if I was in the same room with him. Please get some therapy to work through this. Don't let these two a-holes hold you back from living your best life. It feels like biological maternity shouldn't matter that much, when it means I am finally fulfilling my dream of becoming a mother. He says that if I adopt someday, I'm still going to have to raise a child that is not biologically mine. He has reminded me about what a depressive wreck I was during the infertility, the aftermath of my partial hysterectomy, and how I put him through the ringer because I was obsessed with wanting to have a child. He claims that I pushed him away with my baby obsession and he couldn't deal with me anymore, and that's why he started spraying the way he did. He also says that I can't just turn my back on a child when I legally signed all the paperwork, which is similar to adoption paperwork since the state doesn't readily recognize a child born to a surrogate to be the couple's child, since they base it on the person who gave birth to the child as being the legal mother, until paperwork is signed that transfers the rights over. He also claimed that I am going to have a difficult battle ahead of me trying to reverse that. Not a-hole. One of the things that gets me is that you were working extra jobs to pay for the surrogacy, which I am assuming included her medical bills and financially supporting her. I would speak to a solicitor about suing her for your money back. She knew that if she was having sex, then there was always a chance that the child was biologically hers. Oh, this. She likely signed a lot of legal forms about this stuff, including one about sleeping with anyone while undergoing fertility treatments. I really hope Opie had a good contract for all this. And to the friend I hope, knowing that the kid is hers, conceived naturally and still receiving payment for being a surrogate, makes this snake the worst. Not the a-hole. If you do not want to be a mother to this child, I understand why. I would caution you in giving up your parental rights, because that could be used against you in the court of public opinion. I would talk to a lawyer about a breach of contract, since she was supposed to carry a baby that was genetically yours, then look into having your name removed from the birth certificate. The child was conceived through cheating, and you were made to believe this child was conceived through IVF. There could be an argument there to have you removed from the birth certificate. Doing this makes it perfectly clear you were never the mother of this child, as opposed to a bitter woman who gave up her parental rights out of spite when she got the news that the baby she always wanted did not meet her exacting standards. And believe me, this will be the way your ex and the ex-friend will paint it. Also, doing it this way forced the ex-friend to face the repercussions of what she did. Best of luck to you. Thank you. That is sage advice. I will definitely heed this when I talk to a lawyer soon. I'm still going through consultations and figuring out what my best course of action would be lawyer-wise. Next story. After trying for a baby without success, my boyfriend confessed he got a vasectomy done years ago and didn't want to tell me so I wouldn't break up with him over it. Am I the a-hole for not taking the news very well? Saying I'm heartbroken and angry is another statement. For context, I, 29 female, and my now ex-boyfriend, 34 male, have been dating for a bit over 7 years. We met through a dating app and we had an instant connection. Early on in the relationship, I wasn't seriously thinking about marriage and kids, but we discussed it, and while I don't care for marriage, I've always been sure I'd like to have 1 or 2 kids, and he was on board with having kids eventually. I stress this because from our very first date, I told him I wanted to have a family. It's very important to me, and if he had told me he didn't want kids back then, I wouldn't have progressed the relationship. A few years ago, we were both doing great. I work from home and make decent money, and so does he. We had just bought our first home together, so I suggested we could start trying for kids within the next few years. He was up for it and seemed as enthusiastic as I was. But then, although we were actively trying for a baby, I wasn't getting pregnant. I started having severe anxiety over it. I thought there was something wrong with me. I started taking vitamins, eating healthier, exercising more, but I couldn't get pregnant. Not being able to get pregnant severely affected my self-esteem. Why can some people get pregnant despite using birth control perfectly, and I couldn't get pregnant even while tracking my periods and doing everything right? I felt like crap. My boyfriend tried to brush it off, saying that it was okay, or that maybe we're just not meant to be parents, and then would stress how great our relationship was, how maybe me not getting pregnant was a sign, and that even if we didn't have kids, we could be a dank couple and enjoy life. Now, while there's nothing wrong with being child-free, that's not the life I personally want. If I can't have kids biologically, I'm perfectly fine adopting or fostering. But in my future, I've always envisioned having a family with kids. And that's what I've worked my butt off for all those years. Anyway, to cut it short, after 1.5 years of trying with no success, I decided to visit a fertility clinic and get a few tests done to check my fertility. To my surprise, my tests came out completely fine. Then the fertility clinic suggested to bring in my partner to check the quality of his sperm. When I got home and told him about it, he got visibly nervous and tried to make excuses not to go. saying he was busy, that he's scared of doctors, or that we should just keep trying for a few more years. I got very suspicious because he's normally a bit of an hypochondriac and is certainly not scared of doctors. After I asked about his weird behavior and I pressed for answers, yes, I know it's wrong, he blurted out that he had a vasectomy done 4 years ago. I was baffled, and I still don't get it. Before seriously considering kids, we often talked about the future and our hypothetical family. Heck, we had been actively trying for a baby for over a year. He then told me that he decided against having kids some time ago, but that he never told me because he said that if he told me, I'd probably would have broken up with him, which he didn't want. When I asked him why he didn't tell me while we were trying for kids, knowing how depressed I became over my fertility issues, he said that he hoped that when I saw I wasn't getting pregnant, I would perhaps abandon the idea and that we could just keep the relationship as it was. We had a huge fight. I was very angry. I felt lied to, strung along. And although I know I'm still pretty young, I was hoping to be a mother before I turned 30, and now all of those plans have gone down the drain. I told him how now I'd have to start over with someone else because he wasted my time. At this point, we were both crying and yelling. He begged me to stay and offered to reverse his vasectomy and try for a baby for real, but I broke up with him on the spot and packed my things. I still love him and I want this more than anything, but I don't think I'll ever be able to forgive him for lying to me for years, over something he knows is so important to me. It's been roughly a week since our fight. I moved out of the house and now I'm living with a friend temporarily until I figure out the legal house stuff. I had to get a burner phone because mine has been blowing up with calls and texts from him and his family, asking me to please give him another chance, and saying that everyone makes mistakes. How he was scared of telling me how since now he's open to kids, we should get back together and consider counseling, etc. I don't think I can do it. What kind of relationship would we even have if we got back together? I don't want to constantly wonder what else is he lying to me about, but everyone is making me feel like I'm the bad guy for not forgiving him when he came clean to me. So am I the a-hole? You can't ever take him back. He not only intentionally defrauded you, he let it go on for 4 years while watching your mental and emotional health be destroyed by not being able to conceive. And there is no way in hell he means it about wanting kids now. He just wants her to stay. If they do have kids, he won't be an active/good parent and will potentially resent having kids. It will all be an OP. Hopefully she stands firm and gets the house issue resolved quickly so she can cut ties for good. He would have secretly had it reversed if he really meant it, rather than trying to convince OP it wasn't meant to be. How is him choosing to get a vasectomy and hiding it from you a mistake? That was a choice. A mistake is him getting you red roses when you like yellow. Getting a vasectomy and then letting you think you're infertile was a choice he continuously made. He is now experiencing the consequences of his choice, and unfortunately he dragged you down with him. Go find someone you can trust and won't make major life changes without talking to you about it. Ignite anyone telling you differently. Not the a-hole. His subtext: it's a mistake that I got caught on this massive lie/fraud/betrayal. Yep, his mistake was that he got found out and didn't have a backup plan to keep hiding it from you. A mistake doesn't last 4 years. Last story. Am I the a-hole for being hurtful towards my children after I found out they had been contacting my affair child? I have a daughter who is the result of an affair. I'm aware that makes me an a-hole, and I truly had no excuse. My wife is a saint who agreed to give me a second chance, but was very clear she did not want my daughter in her house. I agreed, though I did want to be in my daughter's life. Due to some unfortunate circumstances, my daughter Daisy came to live with us when she was 15. I made sure all of the labor fell on me, as not inconvenience my wife. Understandably, my other children did not want a relationship with Daisy, and I never pushed it. Daisy married into a lot of money. I'm talking about a man who thinks it's normal to use helicopters like cars, and going to her house is like something out of Downtown Abbey. My children met Daisy's husband once, and I thought that was it. But I recently got a text from Daisy saying, "Can you tell your legitimate kids to stop talking to me? Please and thank you." I was confused, and she sent me screenshots of them apologizing for not knowing her better and claiming they loved her. Daisy accompanied these texts with cash emojis. I confronted my kids and told them they had embarrassed me and should be embarrassed about themselves. I said they wouldn't have sent those messages if she married a local mechanic and to leave her alone. My kids were very hurt, and my wife exploded and said how dare I call our kids embarrassments when they were being kind to their sister. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I'm Team Daisy. Your legitimate kids and wife probably put her through hell while she was living with you. Good for her for declining any association with them now. Honestly, the second time OP was the a-hole was letting Daisy be mistreated to begin with. Some freaking saint his wife is. I've known hateful mother effers who the devil would be scared to take, who've treated their spouse's affair child far better. Am I the only person confused as to how the family thought appropriate to have Daisy move in, and the mom intentionally doesn't care for her and the siblings intentionally ignore her and don't build a relationship? Like the damage done to poor Daisy's thoughts and family, shaking my head. It wasn't perfect, but she showed up bleeding, crying, and threatening self-harm if I didn't let her in. I cannot leave her like that. You were 100% right to take her in. Where you failed was encouraging the other adult in the house to treat her less than the other children. If your wife wasn't willing to care for her, then you two should have split up so Daisy could have a home she was loved in. Your arrangement made your wife a bit more comfortable at the expense of a literal child. It's absolutely no wonder your legitimate children felt no qualms about trying to get money out of Daisy. You and their mom taught them well that Daisy wasn't really worthy of the same level of respect. Am I the a-hole for going forward and refilling the divorce procedures after my wife canceled now that she is getting the help she needs for her postpartum depression? I, 29 male, was in a relationship with my soon-to-be ex-wife, 28 female, for 8 years. Everything was what I would describe as nearly perfect. Small arguments here and there, but nothing really significant or relationship-altering. That all changed 13 months ago after she got pregnant. The pregnancy wasn't a surprise, as we were trying for a baby. I seriously don't know what went wrong, but around the 4-month mark, my wife completely made a 180-degree switch from the kind, caring, and sweet woman she used to be to a total tyrant. I know it's harsh to say, but that's honestly the best way to describe it. I'm completely serious when I say that even my breathing became an issue for her. She would wake me up at 2 to 3 in the morning because she wanted something specific, and she'd become verbally abusive if I refused to drive 40 minutes to get her some ice cream she was craving. Once, she went on a tirade because she wanted Chick-fil-A on a Sunday and the place was closed, calling me a useless husband and every name under the sun. I wasn't allowed to sleep in the same bed as her, but then would get blamed in the morning for not sleeping in the same bed. If I cleaned the house, it was too loud. If I didn't, she'd get mad. I'd cook something she'd requested only for her to suddenly not want it. I bore it all, every insult, every bit of verbal abuse. I never raised my voice at her during this time. I begged her to get help, to talk to a doctor, a therapist, her mother, anyone. But she refused, which only made things worse because apparently by suggesting help, I was calling her crazy. I went with her to the doctor once and brought up the mood swings, but the backlash I faced afterward wasn't worth it. I also spoke with her mother, who tried to help, but my wife acted overly sweet in front of her, making it seem as if I was the crazy one. Even when I had video evidence, she made it seem out of context, turning people against me. 4 months ago, she gave birth. It wasn't an easy birth, but I was hopeful things would turn to normal. Instead, postpartum depression set in. Again, I tried to help. I researched, suggested ways to get support, and even spoke with a therapist on my own to learn how to better support her. But nothing I did was right. She accused me of calling her a terrible wife and mother, even though those words never left my mouth. Things reached a breaking point when she started becoming physically violent. My last straw was when she smashed a coffee cup on my head after a small argument because I took too long to bring her a cup of coffee. I was busy changing our son's diaper. This was the first time in 8 years that I raised my voice at her and told her we were done, that she needed to pack her things and leave. She went to her parents' house, and although she wanted to take our son, I didn't allow it. When she threatened to call the police, I pointed to the hallway camera and told her to go ahead, as it had recorded everything. A week later, I was served divorce papers. I had intended to file myself, but hadn't had the time with work and taking care of our son. 3 weeks ago, when I got back from work, my in-laws were waiting for me. Apparently, they had convinced her to see a therapist after they threatened to kick her out. I should become as abusive to them as she was to me. They finally believed me and understood that I wasn't making things up. They gave me a letter from her before they left. In the letter, she apologized for the way she'd treated me, saying she didn't know why she did it and had no excuse. She explained that after her parents threatened to kick her out, she saw a therapist and psychiatrist and is now on medication. She said she stopped the divorce proceedings and wanted to give us another chance. I haven't responded to her letter and instead instructed my lawyer to proceed with the divorce. I handed over the letter to my lawyer, as it includes a lot of details about her behavior and her admissions of abuse. I also have video evidence, including footage of her breaking the coffee cup on my head and my hospital visits for stitches and burns from the hot coffee. Now, people are telling me I'm the a-hole for not giving her a second chance, especially now that she's getting the help she needs. They say I should forgive her to keep our family together, that if I truly love her, I should be able to forgive her actions while she was not in her right mind. They're calling me a monster for not understanding what she went through. But my question is, why didn't she take the help I suggested? I did everything humanly possible to support her, but she refused and made me out to be the villain. Nothing I did was ever right or enough. Even when I removed myself from situations, I was wrong. I have more than enough evidence to seek full custody of our son, and a prenup that protects everything I own, including the house. Am I the a-hole for refusing to continue in this relationship and proceeding with a divorce? Added to add, I am going for full custody of my son. My lawyer says there is no guarantee, but she doesn't see any reason why a judge wouldn't grant me full custody. Also, I did a paternity test, and my son is biologically mine. I checked my wife's messages just before the birth to be sure, and there were no suspicious or deleted messages. Now for the top comments. Your in sickness and in health vows only went so far, but honestly, not even trying to check on the current state is a pretty poor show for those wedding vows. Nowhere did I promise to just shrug off abuse and to possibly put my son through that. Please remember your advice if a woman asks if she could leave her abusive husband. Not a-hole. You and your son were not worth her getting help over, but her parents are? She abused you. No matter the circumstances, she doesn't get to play the victim now. Her parents weren't. Her own selfish desire was. She was scared of homelessness. Agreed. You're definitely not the a-hole here. It sounds like you've been dealing with a lot of emotional and physical abuse from your wife, and you've done everything you could to help her, including suggesting therapy and offering support. When someone refuses help and becomes abusive, especially during a vulnerable time like postpartum depression, it's not your responsibility to keep trying to make it work, especially when your safety and well-being and your child's are on the line. Her seeking help now is a positive step, but that doesn't erase what happened. You have every right to prioritize your well-being and your son's future, especially given the evidence of abuse and how she's treated you. Moving forward with a divorce and full custody is understandable, as you're looking out for your son and creating a safer environment for both of you. Keep doing what's best for you and your child. Postpartum depression is very real, and give her a second chance to get back to being a normal person. She destroyed her body and mind making you a father. Most people handle that fine. She didn't. Give her the opportunity to recover from her mental illness and stay separated until she does. She either recovers or she doesn't, but to throw your entire relationship away and give up on her because she has a very real mental illness is not looking at the full picture. She threw it away. I tried for months, and I'm done trying. If I did something even remotely similar, would your advice to her be the same? Why should I continue? She refused to get help until she had no options left, until everyone turned their backs on her. Now I'm suddenly good enough again? But for months I was treated like a useless stain on the carpet. I was told to F off just for breathing in the kitchen while she sat in the living room. Apparently my breathing was too loud and irritated her. There was no other noise. I literally walked into the kitchen and her words were, "F off, you're breathing too loud, and it's irritating me." If you had postpartum and acted that way, I'd give the same advice. Or if you had a real mental illness for that matter. Have you looked into exactly how postpartum can ravage a woman's mind? It can really mess them up. And if she didn't act this way before, why are you struggling to feel empathy for her now? If she was already unglued and postpartum made it worse, I'd agree it's not worth saving. But I'd suggest doing some research on the mental illness before signing anything to make this permanent. It should go without saying that her actions were traumatic for you. But if her postpartum was that severe, it wasn't really her doing those things. It sounds like she lost control of her mind shortly after birth. If you were in love with her before all this started, maybe see if she can recover. Like I've been saying, postpartum is very real. It can completely ravage a woman, and they can fully recover. Okay, so if I have a breakdown or a mental crisis and abused my wife, that would be fine? I did research. I spent the night talking to experts, booked appointments with therapists for advice, and nothing I did was right in her eyes. Apparently, wanting her to get help or offering any suggestions was me calling her crazy, a terrible person, or mentally ill. The other thing that bothers me is that, in public, she was fine. When her parents or friends were over, she was the kind, caring person I knew. Even during the 2-week stay her mother had at our house, she acted normal until they left. Next story. Am I the a-hole for breaking up my family and purposefully causing my stepmom to lose her child's custody and my father his? I, 24 male, moved away from home at the start of the pandemic. Back home, I have a younger brother, 12, and a stepsister, 10. I always had a fantastic relationship with my stepmother, better than I did with my father and mother, honestly. We were always really close and felt like a real family. During the pandemic, it was clear that both my father and stepmother experienced a decline in mental health. While they showed signs of stress, they never became abusive or bad parents, at least not initially. However, things took a turn about a year ago. They were expecting their first child together, and at first, everyone, including me and my siblings, was incredibly happy for them. But then things started to change. My stepmother began showing signs of instability and abusive behavior. I think it started affecting my father first because he withdrew, burying himself in his work and drinking, becoming extremely distant. When he effectively removed himself from the situation, the focus of her anger seemed to shift onto my siblings. They began telling me how she was always angry, yelling, and constantly berating them for trivial things. I initially thought it was pregnancy hormones taking its toll on her, and I assumed it would get better eventually. So, I comforted them as best as I could and told them we needed to be understanding since she was going through a hard time. But it never stopped. The baby is now 6 months old and the situation has only worsened. I tried to talk some sense into my father, but nothing came of it. When my brother came to me with a bruised face and told me she had hit him, I lost it. I didn't even contact my parents. I collected all the evidence I could, went straight to the authorities, and then informed my mother and my stepsister's father in that order. I didn't care about my father and stepmother anymore. My siblings were my priority. After a series of legal procedures that I frankly don't fully understand, my mother now has a custody of my brother. My stepsister is with her father, and the baby is staying with my paternal grandparents while his permanent situation is being decided. Since then, I've taken a lot of heat from both families for not attempting to address this issue within the family before going to the police. They argue that I should have gone to the authorities only as a last resort, and that I destroyed the family by not trying to be the bigger person and resolve things like an adult. My stepmother, especially, has been relentless, using every chance to talk to me about it. Eventually, I told her, going to the cops was me being the bigger person. If I'd really done what I wanted, you'd be eating through a tube in a coma from the beating I'd have given you. Honestly, that's exactly what I wanted to do, and the only reason I didn't was because she has a baby and a daughter of her own. I also wanted to beat the heck out of my father for neglecting his children. He's very lucky that my brother still loves him. Not the a-hole. You did everything right. Going to them would have put them in defense mode and they may have hidden things and coached the kids. Your stepmother has clearly had some sort of mental breakdown. Hopefully she gets the help she needs out of this. You're a hero to those kids. Yeah, I honestly don't know what's up with her. But at this point, I'm not exactly sure I care anymore. At least not as far as the kids are concerned. She burned that trust. Mental breakdown or not. Some type of psychosis brought on by pregnancy. But once she physically abused the children, the authorities need to be brought in. Not a-hole, and tell both of them that you went to the authorities first because you no longer trusted them with your siblings' safety due to their own actions. That they are entirely to blame for the situation they're in, and that the way they're trying to blame you proves that they're mentally incapable of taking responsibility for their own actions and would not have made necessary changes had you talked to them first. That your priority will always be the health and safety of the children, not the adults who abused them, period. And tell both of them that you went to the authorities first because you no longer trusted them with your siblings' safety due to their own actions. Yeah, it really comes down to this, to be honest. Father was drinking himself away, being too scared to stand up to his wife, and she was too blinded by whatever she has going on to realize she was abusing kids and that she needed help. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my sister stay with me after she got married and demanded I adjust my lifestyle for her husband? Okay, so I, 28 female, have a pretty established routine. I live alone in a 2-bedroom apartment, and while I'm not a neat freak, I like my space to be organized and have a certain vibe. Think minimalist, calm, and quiet. My sister, 30 female, recently got married to a guy, 31 male, who I barely know. They live about 3 hours away, and since their wedding a month ago, she's been asking to stay with me for a few weeks. Normally I'd be fine with it. I love my sister, but there's a catch. When I agreed, she dropped the bomb that she's bringing her husband with her. Apparently, he doesn't feel comfortable being alone for extended periods, so she wants me to adjust my lifestyle for them as a couple. This means rearranging my apartment for them, having quiet hours during the day because he works from home, and no longer playing music or hosting friends when they're around. Oh, and she suggested I stop using the guest room for my own hobbies, which is how I unwind after work. Basically, I'm supposed to cater to their needs and make space for their relationship. I told her I wasn't comfortable with that, especially since I don't even know her husband that well, and wasn't planning on turning my home into a mini hotel or daycare for them. She got super upset, called me selfish, and said it's just for a couple of weeks. But I'm really not okay with it. I feel like I would be giving up a lot of my personal space and peace of mind just for her convenience. Now, she is threatening not to visit at all, and I'm feeling guilty but also feel like she's overstepping. So, am I the a-hole for refusing to let them stay under these conditions? It sounds like she wants to move in and live with you rent-free while, not really, searching for a place to live. Not the a-hole. Your sister sucks. Sounds like they got evicted and have decided to take over OP's home. Sounds like they'd prefer OP to move out for a few weeks, but are willing to let her stay if she just goes to her room and leaves them alone while they're there. Not the a-hole. Something fishy is going on here. Why would they expect you to rearrange your apartment, move out your hobby stuff, and basically change everything for them just for a few weeks? This sounds more like a case of, we need somewhere to stay, but no will be told no, so we'll visit for a few weeks, and then OP won't be able to get rid of us, because she'll be leaving us homeless. So we can stay for longer and longer until OP has to evict us, or accepts that this is our home now. And even if it isn't that, who the heck as a guest asks someone to rearrange everything for them? My cousin has stayed at my house a lot, and not once has he demanded that I rearrange everything for him. Either your sister and her husband are crappy and demanding guests, or they are crappy and demanding mooches trying to con their way into your home. Either way, say no. It will only end badly. The only excuse I can see for a guest to ask for a brief rearrangement is if they either have an infant and need a space in a guest room for a cradle, or they have a walker/wheelchair and need maneuvering room. Obviously, neither applies here. I agree with everyone suggesting that the sister is trying to move in and take over OP's apartment. Not the a-hole. It's your space, and it sounds like she's asking for a lot. A couple weeks is a long time to live in a situation that's making you uncomfortable. Thank you for all the reassuring words. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my dad my inheritance even though he says he needs it more? Okay, so I, 28 female, need to know if I'm out of line here because my family is making me feel like the worst person alive right now. Sorry if this is a mess, but I'm just so mad while writing this. For context, my mom passed away when I was 18. She was the best, the only person in my life who ever really cared about me. My dad, 55 male, was around, but honestly, he wasn't great. He cheated on my mom when I was 13, and while she stayed for my sake, I never forgave him. He moved in with his affair partner about a month after the divorce, and she's been his main focus ever since. Anyway, my mom didn't have much, but she left me a small inheritance. Not huge, around $50,000, but it was everything she had. Her will was super clear that it was for me to build my future. She knew how much I wanted to go to art school but couldn't afford it back then. I ended up working my way through school, so I kept the money in savings, planning to use it for a house or a small business someday. Fast forward to now, I'm finally in a stable place. About to start looking at houses with my partner, 29 male, and suddenly my dad pops out of nowhere. He's never really asked me for anything before, or, been around, but now he's saying he needs help. Apparently, his wife got into a debt from gambling, and now they're at risk of losing their house. He says it's temporary and he'll pay me back, but I know that BS. He's never been good with money, and his wife? Let's just say she doesn't exactly scream responsible. I told him no, that this money was for mom and she wanted it for me. He got all defensive, saying she'd want me to help family and that I'm being selfish for hoarding money I don't even need right now. Like, are you kidding me? Now my dad's side of the family is all up in my business, saying I should be the bigger person and help him out in his time of need. My aunt even called me to say that I'm disrespecting his role as my father. What role? The man barely raised me. I feel bad because, yeah, it's a lot of money, and I guess they could lose their house. But at the same time, why is it my responsibility to bail them out when they've done nothing for me? My mom trusted me with this money, and I feel like giving it to him would just be spitting on her memory. Am I the a-hole for saying no? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your mom died and left everything she had to the daughter she loved, not the ex who cheated on her. Forget everything else. Would your mother want you to give everything she ever saved to her ex and the woman he cheated on her with? Ignore them both. Use the money however you choose, and rest easy knowing it's what your beloved mother would have wanted. Yeah, mother would roll over in her grave if Opie gave any money to her father. Not the a-hole. That's your money and no one else's. All of these posts about family and money on this sub are crazy. Does this thing actually happen? Sadly, yes. Family is the worst because they feel entitled. One of the many reasons I'm no contact with my younger sister. Next story. Am I the a-hole for tearing down my half-sister when she asked me why I couldn't have saved my mom's name for her to use for a future daughter? I, 27 female, gave birth to my first child a month ago. My husband and I named her after my late mom, with a favorite name of ours as her middle name. My mom died 10 years ago, and using her name was always something I wanted to do. When my half-sister, 24 female, first heard the name, she got a little pouty and asked why I didn't see if she wanted to use the name instead. She said she had always imagined giving her first daughter my mom's, not her mom's, name. I told her I'd always intended to use my mom's name. My half-sister said my mom was basically the closest person she ever had to a mom, and that she was always so sweet and accepting of her, and that using her name would have been a nice way to show respect and appreciation. She said I didn't need to use it. I said, I'm my mom's daughter, so of course I get to use it. My half-sister replied that we were all family. I emphasized in response that I was my mom's only child. My half-sister said that might be true, but my mom had accepted her into the family as well. This is where I might be the a-hole, because I told her that wasn't true. I said my mom hardly had anything to do with her. I explained that my mom didn't want to take her frustrations out on kids, so she tried to be kind when she couldn't avoid her, but she absolutely didn't love or accept her. I told her to get real if she thought the woman who was cheated on would love and accept the child that came from the affair. I told her she shouldn't be trying to imply she had more of a right to my mom's name than I do when she was nothing to my mom, and her child wouldn't be either. She left in tears. Background: my parents were married and had me. Mom found out dad cheated on her and got his other woman pregnant, so she divorced him. She had primary custody of me. My dad ended up with sole custody of my half-sister. My dad made every effort to stay in my life, but he always brought my half-sister when he came to support me. My mom hated it. She never said that directly to me, but I overheard her talking to my aunt or grandma about how much she despised seeing my half-sister there. She said it was tough when my half-sister would reach out to her, but she didn't want to be mean to her face. My mom also told my dad she didn't want to be active in my half-sister's life. Over the years, my half-sister tried to spend more time with my mom. She would pack to come with me when I was going home to mom, or she'd rush out the door when mom picked me up, trying to hug and talk to her. My mom wasn't warm to her, but my half-sister ignored it. When my mom died, my family and I had a private cremation, and my half-sister was upset she couldn't attend. My dad and I stopped speaking after that because he said I should have ensured my half-sister could be there. He never discouraged her from pining for my mom, even though my mom had told him she didn't want a relationship with her. Since my half-sister ran out crying, she's texted me, saying I was cruel and didn't need to crush her hope that my mom loved her. She said she'd hoped to be wanted by at least one female figure in her life. She also said I never wanted to be with her and dad, and then I didn't want her with me and mom either. Am I the a-hole? Honestly, I blame your father for all of this. Your sister clearly spent her childhood wishing for a mother in her life, and instead of taking responsibility for his failures, your father tried to push the woman he cheated on into being a surrogate mother to his affair baby. I hope when things are calmer, you can encourage your sister to seek therapy to address how much your father's poor parenting messed her up. True, the father's actions and lack of responsibility are at the root of this whole issue. He created a deeply unfair situation for everyone involved, especially his daughters. It's clear why your half-sister might struggle with feelings of rejection and a longing for a maternal figure, especially if her father failed to provide adequate emotional support and guidance. Not the a-hole. Wow, your half-sister is projecting hard. She may have idolized your mom in her head, but that doesn't change the reality of the situation. Your mom didn't want a relationship with her because of the circumstances, and that's not your fault to sugarcoat or fix. Honestly, she put you in an awkward position by even asking to use your mom's name for her hypothetical kid. You have every right to honor your mom however you see fit. She was your mom, period. I bet the dad planted this seed in the half-sister's head that his ex loved her, and it grew into a delusional tree. They both need a major reality check. Exactly. Dad should have found another woman to be a female role model instead of his cheating victim. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to share my college savings with my step-siblings because my mom saved it for me? Hi everyone. I'm Sienna, 19 female, and I'm currently a student. Growing up, I lived mostly with my mom after my parents divorced, but I spent weekends and holidays with my dad, his wife, my stepmom, and their 2 kids, 8 female and 6 male. While I love my dad, I've always felt like an outsider in his new family. When I was younger, my mom started a college savings fund for me. She worked so hard to build it up over the years, and it's the reason I've been able to go to college without drowning in debt. My dad didn't contribute much to it. He said he had other expenses, especially with my younger siblings, but I've always been grateful for what my mom did. Last weekend, during a family dinner, my stepmom casually mentioned that my younger siblings are going to need help paying for college someday. Then she turned to me and asked if I'd be willing to share some of my college fund with them since we're all family. I was completely caught off guard. I told her I couldn't because that money is specifically for my education, and my mom worked really hard to save it for me. She got upset and said I was being selfish, arguing that my siblings are young and will need support when they're older. My dad chimed in, saying it would mean a lot to the family if I contributed, even just a small portion. I told them I understood their concern, but that this wasn't something I could do. My stepmom ended the conversation by calling me ungrateful and storming out of the room. Since then, my dad has been distant, and my stepmom barely speaks to me unless it's to throw a passive-aggressive comments my way. Even my mom thinks I should have entertained the conversation at all, but I didn't want to cause a bigger fight. Now I'm wondering if I handled this the wrong way. Am I the a-hole for refusing to share my college fund with my step-siblings? Not the a-hole. That's your college money. You need to use that for your education. At the next conversation, OP should remind both stepmom and dad. Yes, they will need help paying for their college like I do. My mom saved up tooth and nail for me. Neither of you contributed to it. I suggest you start, as a matter of conscientiousness, making contributions to their college funds so they get the help they need. It's not my responsibility to sponsor my siblings. It's your responsibility to sponsor your children. OP, focus on your mom. If your dad and his wife want to be passive-aggressive, spend time at your mom's and avoid them for your peace of mind. You should absolutely not share, because by the looks of it, those two think what belongs to your step-siblings is theirs and what is yours also belongs to your step-siblings. Remove yourself from that complication and cherish your mother. She sounds phenomenal. My mother cared enough to save for her offspring. Dad, I'm sorry that your new wife doesn't care enough about her offspring to save for them. But it was your choice to marry her after you left my mother. Not the a-hole. Is your stepmom smoking crack? Good for you for standing your ground. Your stepmom wants your mom's money? Crazy. OP's mom needs to speak to the stepmom and say, "Which? Save for your own kids' college funds, instead of coming after money I saved for my own child. Stop embarrassing yourself and being entitled." Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to name my baby after my partner's family tradition? Female 27, male 30. I, 27, female, am currently 8 months pregnant with my first child, a baby girl, with my partner Luke, 30, male. We're beyond excited to meet her and have been working on all the preparations, nursery, baby gear, parenting books, you name it. But we've hit a massive wall over one thing, her name. Luke's family has a tradition where every firstborn girl is named Agatha. His great-grandmother, grandmother, and mother all have this name, and apparently it's non-negotiable for his family that we carry it on. To be clear, Agatha is a fine name, but it's just not the vibe I want for our daughter. I've always loved unique, modern names, and I feel like our daughter should have her own identity, not a hand-me-down name that she didn't choose. I've tried compromising. I suggested using Agatha as her middle name or even giving her a modern name with a similar vibe, like Isla or Athena. But Luke and his family are adamant. They've called me selfish, disrespectful, and even said I'm trying to erase their legacy. His mom keeps sending me baby blankets embroidered with Baby Agatha like it's already decided, and his grandmother made a big speech at Thanksgiving about how she's so proud to welcome another Agatha to the family. I've told Luke that while I respect his family's tradition, this is our daughter, and I want us to agree on a name that feels right to both of us. He says I'm overcomplicating this and should just honor the tradition since it's clearly important to them. Here's the kicker. I found out that Luke himself hates his own family name, which was passed down to him through their boy tradition. He goes by his middle name because he thinks Horace, his real first name, is embarrassing. When I brought this up, he said, "Yeah, but that's different." Now I'm getting the silent treatment from his mom, guilt trips from his grandma, and Luke is acting like I'm being unreasonable for standing my ground. My friends are split. Some say I should just give in to avoid family drama, while others agree this is a hill worth dying on. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for refusing to name my baby after my partner's sacred family tradition? Now for the top comments. Definitely not the a-hole. It's your child, not a family heirloom. Traditions are nice, but they shouldn't override what feels right for you as parents. Stick to your guns and choose a name you both love. Thank you. That's exactly how I feel. Traditions are great, but they shouldn't feel like chains. I just want my daughter to have a name that feels special to her, not one chosen out of pressure. Do you now call him Horace? I fully would only use that from now until he drops the name for your child. Not the a-hole. It's reasonable to want a name you both love for your daughter. You've already compromised by offering Agatha as a middle name, but Luke and his family's insistence is unfair. His own discomfort with his name adds inconsistency. It's your child, and both parents should have equal input. Thank you for understanding. Offering it as a middle name felt like a fair compromise to honor their tradition without it defining her identity. It's frustrating that Luke doesn't see the double standard. Refuse to call him anything but Horace until he starts supporting you, the person growing the daughter currently camped out on your bladder. Not the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my boyfriend's sister live with us after she was kicked out by her own parents? My boyfriend, 28 male, and I, 27 female, have been together for 5 years, and we've been living together for the past 2. We're happy and generally get along well. But recently, his younger sister, 21 female, was kicked out of their parents' house after an argument. She didn't have anywhere to go and asked if she could move in with us. I immediately said no. I said no because she's messy, loud, and incredibly entitled. I've had issues with her in the past because she used to come over unannounced, eat our food, and leave a mess in our apartment. On top of that, she's been known to borrow money from family and conveniently forget to pay it back. I tried to explain to my boyfriend that I wasn't comfortable with her living with us, especially since we only have a 1-bedroom apartment. I also work from home, so having her around all the time would disrupt my routine. He argued that it's temporary and that families should help each other out. When I stood my ground, he called me selfish and accused me of not supporting him when his family needed help. His sister also heard about my refusal and started bad-mouthing me to other family members, saying I'm heartless and trying to ruin their bond. Now my boyfriend is upset, and his sister is furious. Should I have accepted for the sake of peace? I feel bad, but I also believe we're entitled to our own space and boundaries. So am I the a-hole for refusing to let her move in? Not the a-hole. Your space and boundaries matter. It's not your job to fix their family drama, especially when it's clear should disrupt your life. Your boyfriend needs to respect that. Your boyfriend's sister has a pattern of bad behavior, and that alone is a valid reason to not want her living with you. It's important to stand firm on boundaries, even if it causes some tension in the family. Your comfort is important too. The boyfriend is also showing a pattern of bad behavior towards his girlfriend. Not the a-hole. There are a number of reasons why staying together won't work. If she can fight with her parents, I'm sure you'll keep having issues every day. She should go and patch things up with her parents.